and our Los Angeles fire chief, who leads the bravest men and women I know of this Los Angeles Fire Department, Chief Ralph Terrazas, who helped us get this program off the ground. Chief Abe Fortman as well, I want to thank you for your incredible work too. And we wouldn't be here without folks that most Angelenos now know because they've gotten tested. CORE, and our founders, Ann Lee and Sean Penn, who we were here, I don't know now, 6-7 months ago as we opened up this. But if it wasn't for CORE and its 500 team members, we could not do this. So thank you for what you have built and what you have shown this world we can do from LA and for LA. I want to also thank the USC School of Pharmacy. I started my day alongside Ashley Hayes and pharmacy students and others who taught me how to draw the vaccine into syringes, putting syringes together. We've got students and instructors who are helping us as our other healthcare professionals are in hospitals saving lives. We are here making sure people don't get sick, and they've already helped us provide 15,000 free flu shots in the midst of this pandemic. This site will move us closer to a day we can't wait to wake up and hear about. A day when we record 0 deaths here in Los Angeles. A day in which there are no more families devastated by this virus. A day when we say our economy is fully reopened, our children are back in school, we're hugging our loved ones, we're back together. A day when we can celebrate every baby shower and baptism and birthday that we missed. When we can finally wrap our arms around loved ones. And we know vaccinations are the key to that. With Dodger Stadium, we are throwing open the door to that future. This mega site will bring the city's contribution to LA County's vaccinations to 20,000 people a day in our capacity, between Dodger Stadium and 4 city-operated sites, and the fire stations that are vaccinating members of LAFD and soon other members of the city family. We are all collectively working around the clock to get to more vaccines more quickly. But I think when folks are confused out there, the central issue is we simply aren't receiving enough vaccines at the national level. And so I spoke with President-elect Biden yesterday with his COVID team as well. And I know that they are going to do everything they can to work with manufacturers to ramp that up, because here someone is infected every 6 seconds in Los Angeles. And here in LA, somebody is dying every 8 minutes. Every 8 minutes. As terrible as those facts are, we have to celebrate good news when we see it, and that is with a vaccine. We can't drop our guard while this is happening. Continue to keep your distance, wear your masks, stay home, avoid gatherings, get tested. And you can still get a free test every day of the week. We are worried, as we took this down as a testing site to a vaccination site, whether we'd meet capacity, and we have, and there are tests available today at coronavirus.lacity.org. We're expanding capacity at 8 sites. We're adding mobile teams, and we're building a new site at Pierce College in Woodland Hills. So again, coronavirus.lacity.org/testing, or by calling 311, you can still schedule a test while we're addressing vaccination. With that, let me move forward in our program and our guests. We've got, I know, a bunch of questions that'll come from the press, but please hold with us because we've got some really amazing folks. And let me first invite Stan Kasten, who is our host here today, to come forward and thank him on behalf of a grateful city, a city that's celebrating still that we will be the world champions until we repeat that again. And no pressure for you, Stan, but you have been an amazing friend. Thank you for you, and we're so sorry for your loss with Tommy. Stan Kasten.
Thank you, Mayor. I moved here because the mayor once told me that, it's 86 in January here. I said, come on. People didn't believe him, but here we are. I want to express my thanks and appreciation to all the people that the mayor mentioned. This is only the result of so many people having to pitch in, but adversity reveals who you are. None of us like adversity, and needless to say, we have all lived through the worst year imaginable in terms of adversity. But on the field, the Dodgers showed they could overcome that adversity. And similarly, off the field, we are very proud that we've been able to show who we are through adversity, from becoming the world's largest COVID testing center, to becoming a very large and important polling place in November, to the drive-through Christmas extravaganza that we had for our community, and now today what is on its way to becoming the world's largest vaccination center. For 60 years, this community has supported the Dodgers, and so we are pleased, proud, humbled, and honored to be able to support our community in the same way that they support us. So, as I said, thank you to everyone who has contributed and participated in putting this together. The Dodgers will always be here to lend a hand in any way that we can. We are not near the end yet, but we are getting nearer, and we're getting there every day. And very soon, it'll be time for us to be playing ball on these fields again with our stands full. And I hope I see all of you there. So thank you very much. Now, let me turn it over to Nuri Martinez, our City Council President.
And thank you, Nuri, for being such a strong advocate for families during this pandemic. Thank you for being a great partner. Please welcome our Council President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you. I'm happy to be here with the Governor and Mayor of our city, both who have made extraordinary efforts to respond to the pandemic. For so many Angelenos, this has been an incredibly difficult year. And while we still have a long way to go, at least we know that entering this new phase, we now have a vaccine and we can now start having real hope. And I say that fully recognizing the responsibility that we all have now, the responsibility to bring in hope, not just as fast as possible, but to as many of our hardest hit communities as possible. This facility is one step forward to doing that. In just a few days, we're going to be able to ramp up and deliver 12,000 vaccines a day. That's right, 12,000 vaccines a day. But we have a lot more work to do because we have so many more people in need. And that's where we must establish our priorities. And we must make those shared priorities not competing with other priorities. We have to have shared priorities together. We need to get our healthcare workers and our frontline workers vaccinated. We need to do right by them. And we need to make sure that they stay healthy to get the rest of us through this crisis. But enough of this bureaucracy. We have the vaccine, and as we roll it out, we need to deliver it to the most vulnerable, including our seniors. And I'll be damned if any of the vaccine goes to waste or gets thrown out simply because we don't know how to follow regulations or the confusing guidelines, or simply because somebody refuses to take it. There are so many more folks that want it and need it today. There are so many lives at stake. I don't want this vaccine to go to waste. We have 4 million Angelenos, including our essential workers and people of color who deserve immediate access to it. And whether we do it now or later, some of those folks do not have time to waste. It can mean life or death for them. When this site is open and others across our city begin to open in other parts of the state, we need to ensure that we are addressing the hardest hit communities and that we are talking about access to this vaccine. The city is committed to making sure that our residents have a place to get the vaccine as soon as it becomes available. This is about creating access, particularly in communities of color. We need to create access in these neighborhoods that have been hit the hardest. This is why last week I've asked the city departments to take an inventory of our city facilities to ensure that we have places to be able to distribute the vaccine. The facilities should be concentrated in the highest risk communities within our city and in low income communities of color. Some say that goals of equity should be set aside and instead focus on getting more people vaccinated. But if this year has taught us anything, it's that inequity can no longer be ignored. If we don't focus on equity now, I'll tell you who's going to get the vaccine. It'll be the people who have the luxury to stay at home and send their children to open private schools and neighborhood learning pods. And the people who will not get the vaccine will be the nannies, the maids, the housekeepers, and the gardeners. The people who check out our groceries, who prepare our food every day, who deliver our mail, and clean our streets. Equity isn't about just checking off a box. It's just isn't a word that you punch up because you want to create more media posts for yourselves. It's past time that we do right by these neighborhoods and these communities and these workers. And as difficult as it will be, I know that our governor and our local elected officials here in Los Angeles are committed to figuring this out. As we roll out the vaccine, we cannot lose focus on distributing it quickly, but we also need to distribute it justly as soon as possible. This is how we save lives in the most vulnerable neighborhoods. This is how we thank our essential workers for risking their own lives on a daily basis. And this is how we ensure that these neighborhoods are not left behind yet again. There are workers throughout our city, and a lot of Angelenos stood on the store steps clapping for our essential workers and saying thank you for your service, but that cannot be enough if we ignore the life-threatening risks that they take every single day during this pandemic. We are not that city. We cannot allow that to happen. For this past year, I've been humbled to lead the city council that has focused on the working class families of our city. These are the people that we have been fighting for every single day. The essential workers, our seniors, and our children to keep them safe. So I look forward to working with our governor and our mayor to make sure that we prepare quickly to deliver this vaccine to low-income and immigrant communities throughout our city who do not have access to health insurance. These are the communities that I represent. These are the communities that I will continue to fight for, and these are the communities that I ask you all to fight for as well. We're all in this together cannot just be a slogan. For this vaccine to succeed, it needs to be a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council President. Amen, amen. With that, I don't need talking points to introduce my friend and our state's leader, a man who I've seen, and he comes from local government, so he knows what this kind of a struggle to build something like this looks like. A man who, at a moment when the federal government has been missing in action, has been not just California's governor, but America's governor. And I want to say, because I know leadership at the top is tough and it can be lonely, that we are so blessed in this golden state to have somebody with the intelligence, the drive, the grit, and the heart that Gavin Newsom brings to this. We would not be here today without him. Please welcome our governor, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam President, Congressman, Senator, and Mr. City Council member, all of you. It's an honor to be here. Stan, thank you for once again stepping up, stepping in, doing the right thing. Thank you for being here unselfishly for the entire community. We were here just a few months ago when you opened this up, as you noted, for early voting. You've done it with food banks. You've done it consistently in terms of the testing regime. And Sean, and thank you guys, the whole core team, for the incredible work that you have done in assembling so many volunteers and extraordinary civic leaders to find people in positions of formal authority, but more importantly, people that are exercising their moral authority and helping support others. That's the moment we're in. We're also in a moment of some urgency, and let me just be quite candid with each and every one of you. We've got to increase the pace and distribution and the administration of these vaccines. The reality is we need to get these vaccines out of the freezer, and we need to get them into people's arms. We need to make sure, as the president said, we need to do that with a lens of equity. Absolutely, not rhetorically. We need to commit and we need to be resolved in that effort. But we should not use that as an excuse not to move deliberatively and move at the speed that this state and our nation deserves. At the end of the day, we continue to battle this remarkable moment in the surge, the most difficult and challenging surge we have faced since the beginning of this pandemic. The good news is we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel, not just the light that vaccines provide, but light as it relates to positivity rate that's now declining in the state of California, case rates that are now declining in the state of California, hospitalizations that are now declining in the state of California, ICU admissions that are now declining in the state of California. The last 7+ days, we have seen some encouraging signs. But now, more than ever, it's incumbent upon us not to let our guard down, not to let our masks off, and to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to maintain that discipline, that purposefulness, to work our way through yet another surge. And so we're here mindful of that, sober, the reality that we face and the challenges that we face as a state and a nation. But today is a point of emphasis, is a point of optimism. Today to celebrate collaborative spirit, celebrate leadership, to celebrate your mayor for making sure that we raise the bar in terms of expectation and we deliver on what we're promoting and promising. I just want to say to Mayor Garcetti, he has been steadfast in his determination to get this site open, to get it operational, and to come down here just days after we had a preliminary conversation to see the incredible work he and his team, our firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, and all those county partners, including those folks from USC and others. It's an extraordinary testament to people with resolve, with grit and determination. 4,000 people will get the vaccines today. We hope that's the goal. This is just day one. The idea of getting to 12,000+ will be significant and will be a logistics opportunity, not just a logistics challenge. Dodger Stadium is joining many other mass vaccination sites all throughout the state of California. I was up at Cal Expo in Sacramento yesterday, much smaller site, but with a same and similar mindset of throughput and administering these vaccines and moving these vaccines out of the freezer and getting them into people's arms. We're seated down at Petco Park and the Padres joining the same effort. We're seeing it in the Central Valley, in Fresno, at other fairground sites in the central part of our state, up in San Mateo at a number of different facilities. And we are working with other major league teams as well as minor league teams to open up similar sites as well all throughout the state of California. So you should be seeing more of this. It's not exclusively what we're doing, it's just additive. We continue to want to do more to provide more access at pharmacies, more access with your doctor, more access with the primary care physicians, clinics, all throughout the spectrum of delivery of our healthcare delivery system in the state. We have 3,500 partners in the state of California, 3,500 providers that are distributing the vaccine because of waivers, because of the determined leadership and expectations set by the local leaders here. We have waived the ability for additional administrators, more vaccinators. We now have over 100,000 people eligible to provide vaccinations, 15 National Guard strike teams. We have dentists now that can provide vaccines, EMTs, paramedics. We have people across the spectrum in our healthcare delivery system, and you're going to continue to see more nursing students, folks that are retired coming back in to the health corps and helping provide and support one another. To date, 1.188 million doses have been administered. To date, 1.188 million doses have been administered. We are on pace to exceed our 1 million goal in 10 days. We'll update you more on that when the dust settles on our data collection. I want folks to be mindful that the numbers that are often published and are out there are days old, as so many providers are submitting their information, providing that information, and ultimately that information is provided to the federal government. We're looking to fast track that with better urgency, there's more transparency in terms of where we are, but we recognize more transparency and more application is the call at this moment. And so I want Californians to know it's like a flywheel. We're making progress. We're moving with deliberative speed. And may I say, as Mayor Garcetti said, how significant it is, the fresh air of progress versus the stale air of normalcy. The notion that we now are being able to move forward, turn, forgive me, the proverbial page, working with a new administration as early as next week, the fruits of their efforts in that transition will take shape, and all of us will be the beneficiary of that. More expectation, more transparency on when the doses will arrive. When we know when doses are arriving, it helps us with our planning purposes. It allows quicker and more efficient throughput, more capacity to get return phone calls, to have people that truly are committed bottom up to delivering on this equity measure. And so I'm really looking forward to that partnership, and I want to just express appreciation. Just an hour or so ago, Vice President, now President-elect Joe Biden, announced his strategy to prioritize people 65 and over, his strategy for support for mass vaccination sites just like this, his strategy to support the caregivers and support investments in our National Guard to help with the distribution and administration of the vaccines across the board. His plan mirrors the spirit and the letter of our guidance here in the state of California. So this is all encouraging. It's amplifying efforts that are all already underway. And I just want to thank everybody for all their extraordinary work. But again, mindful always of our responsibility, each and every one of you watching, to do more and do better, to quickly, safely, and efficiently, mindful of equity, move these vaccines out of the warehouses, out of the freezers, into people's arms. You deserve that, and we are looking forward to substantially improving and increasing that effort in the days, weeks, and many, many months ahead. So thank you all for being here. Deep gratitude again to the mayor, city council, for their incredible leadership, to Stan and entire partnership here at the LA Dodgers for making this extraordinary world-class site available for this world-class logistics operation.